What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I will be taking a look at the new Hyperion XP1 warp drive. This thing is obviously going to be the first hydrogen slash electric hypercar that we have in the Crew Motorfest. This thing I would actually say does look pretty dang insane. I mean, look at the overall body design of this thing, bro. Like, it legit looks super futuristic. Now, a few things about this, though. I did end up making my car blue because I feel like it actually fits, like, the overall, like, I guess you could say the design of it. Even though you could basically have any color, really, because it doesn't really mess it up that much. And when it comes to the customization, there really isn't any, which I don't think is that surprising. And then, of course, for the vanity items, you can add basically any of the stuff to it. And you can also have some audio signatures, so you can make this thing sound like a V8. But why would you actually want to do that, even though it would probably sound kind of dope? Now, a few things about the Hyperion I did want to touch on, guys. I'm going to do a top speed test on it, do a race with it, and also take a closer look at it to really see how this thing is for a new hypercar. Okay, so now arriving outside with the new Hyperion, can we all agree that this thing actually looks pretty dang dope? I do know a lot of players are going to be like, no, Block, that car is ugly, bro. It has wings on it, like something you would see from like Pegasus or like a boss from Elden Ring. Probably isn't going to be that cool looking. I mean, the car is obviously very futuristic, so it is probably going to look pretty odd. Plus, it's also hydrogen and electric. And you know the crazy part? It actually sounds pretty dang dope. You know what's funny? I can't even hide it. They legit kill the engine sounds in Motorfest, man. Every single car sounds so dang good, my goodness. Also, look at this interior, bro. Tell me if that does not look absolutely ridiculous. Look at the size of that screen. You know, a lot of people have been worried that we would end up getting a gigantic touchscreen on a vehicle, and boom, we did actually manage to get a crazy touchscreen on a vehicle, even though I think the bottom part of that might be like, maybe it isn't a touchscreen, but it really does obviously look like one. But let's move over here and take a look. I do like the way the seats look. The entire interior of this vehicle looks crazy, bro. There's obviously like the pillars going across there. You can look out of the car completely, which actually looks pretty insane. Also, look at those mirrors, dude. Those things are interesting looking. We also have the rear view mirror, which I do know everybody's like, bro, let me get the mirrors to work. Which, you know what, honestly, I have to admit, they really should, bro. Can I move the camera that direction? Or not? And then we also have the main part in the middle as well. Does that move at all? I don't see anything. Let's see. Not seeing anything move there in the middle, so I'm not sure if it's supposed to. Maybe it's bugged out, maybe it isn't. Who actually knows? But regardless, though, the interior and the Hyperion looks pretty crazy. But there is one more thing I did want to add on to this, though. I actually went back on the website, guys, to check a few things out here on the car itself, and it does turn out the entire touchscreen is 100 inches long, bro, which I would say is most likely going to hit a record for a touchscreen. Imagine if other cars have that. Well, let's hope not, because most cars obviously have an iPad in them. But without further ado, though, let's go do a top speed test on this car. First things first, to see what it can get to. Wait, it's a 3-speed, bro? A 3-speed, that's pretty interesting. Again, I haven't really looked much into this car, which I probably should actually do that. Okay, gets up to speed kind of nicely, and what I did see on the website's an all-wheel drive, which I will touch more on the details of that here in a second. Let's see. Okay, so 295 miles an hour, that's pretty dang good. Obviously isn't going to be the fastest hypercar out of all of them, but at least it is easily still going to be quick enough to keep up with most of them. Meanwhile, many of the hypercars, including most of the Bugattis and the Countach, hit around 305 miles an hour. So at least the Hyperion isn't going to be like the slowest one out there. But if you are looking for like the fastest overall hypercar, this one is unfortunately going to fall slightly short of it. But you know what, though? I do not know much of anything about the warp drive, so there's a few things I had to do, like go onto the actual website and look at it to see what are some of the insane things about this car. So number one, guys, this thing has 2,038 horsepower. Is that enough? Probably not. No, it needs at least 3,000. Am I right? And it's also going to do 0 to 60 in 2.25 seconds, which I would actually say is a bit ridiculous. Has a top speed of 221 miles an hour, which of course on this game is going to be 295 because 221 is like a street tier 2 vehicle. And let's be real, this thing would be way too fast as a tier 2 car, so that obviously does make sense. And it's also going to be all-wheel drive. On top of that, though, the chassis in this thing is going to be fully carbon fiber and titanium, which I would say right there is going to be pretty dang insane. Okay, brakes do not work there, Guardian. They do not work. And the wings, guys, on the side of the car do actually have a function, so I would say that's pretty dang incredible from like an overall technology standpoint. Now, when I do talk about this car here, Motorfest, though, I'm going to say my overall thoughts might be a tad different. We all do know right now this thing is obviously a new hypercar, which in this game is probably going to be one of the most competitive classes in the entire game for that matter. So, like, the car's got to be decent. That way you can actually use it, right? And, well, right now I have to say, if you guys are running manual, this car is going to be pretty dang wonky in a way that it's actually almost going to be like a fully automatic vehicle. The reason why I say that is most of the time, depending on what you are doing with it, you obviously do not have to have this thing in second gear unless you go around a corner. Then you immediately have to shift it. Like, for example, right now in this race, I am obviously getting destroyed by the AI because they're built different on level 5, so that's unfortunate there. But I was noticing going around turns right now that, yes, you obviously keep the car in second gear around them, because if you keep it in third, the car's obviously going to basically, like, bog down and not be quick. And then if you actually have the car in second gear around the turns, you are most likely going to redline that thing around 95 or so miles an hour, so you then basically have to shift it. And then you have to use your nitrous, get the car up to speed and stuff like that, which I admit the overall speed on this thing is pretty dang insane. But I would just say right now, though, like, I don't think it's going to be that great of a hypercar. At least compared to the other ones, players might like the look of it, which I would also say is going to be kind of subjective. Like, I don't know if everybody's going to like it, bro. I don't think they will. At least they might not like the way this car does look, so then they might not drive it. I do say, though, it does sound pretty dang insane with it being hydrogen and electric, which is kind of crazy. Maybe we'll get that crazy-looking Hyundai car in the game. Who knows? Might be a possibility, but let me actually see if I can win this race real quick. No! And oh, dude, that was a good ending, I have to admit. I'm glad the Bugatti crashed. At least I managed to win, because with this car, it was a bit weird to win that race. Now, I did want to do one more race with the Hyperion here, because I was like, you know what, bro? This thing is a cool-looking car, but is it truly going to be a good hypercar? I just feel like a lot of players might look at this thing and go, okay, yeah, you know what, I like it, even though I feel like most players aren't going to like the way that it looks. But would you actually pick the Hyperion over something like a Bugatti or like a Lamborghini for a grand race, or even something in a summit? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Would you pick this car over many of the other hypercars? I feel like that's going to be a big issue in the crew right now, to where, like, you have a lot of cars, even though, yes, you have a lot of them, many of the cars are not actually functionable. To where, like, yeah, the car does look cool, it might sound good, but you can't actually race it. Like, yeah, you could cruise around the map and stuff with it, but how much fun is that actually going to be with, you know, the map being smaller? We're obviously getting an island, but that has been mentioned about 17,000 times, so I don't want to keep saying that, because I would say a lot of players are most likely going to be driving on this island for a while before that one obviously comes out in over 3 months from now, so that's something to think about. Now, I gotta say right now, this thing is going to be all-wheel drive. It does handle decently well, but I have to admit this, though. Even driving this car, then immediately driving the lovely new Nissan GT-R 50, which is obviously a hypercar. I will actually be doing a video on that car tomorrow, guys, so stay tuned for it. But I was driving that and then driving this, and I was like, bro, the GT-R 50 is just so much better, and I like the way this car feels over the new Hyperion, which I do feel like a lot of players are most likely going to look at this car and go, you know what, bro? I like it, it looks cool, but you know what, man? I'm just not going to use it. There is other hypercars that are better. Do you guys actually think that is going to be an issue with many new cars being added? Yes, they obviously look dope. We have a new car, but are they actually going to be functional? So my overall final thoughts on the new Warp Drive. Do I like it? To be honest, I do like it. Would I actually pick this car over many of the other hypercars? To be honest, guys, I would have to say no. The reason for that is I do feel like driving this thing in manual is a bit of a challenge, or at least kind of odd. Like, I do understand the car is going to be a 3-speed with, like, the design of it, but if you are shifting back in a second, you immediately have to go back into third, and of course the car might end up bogging down slightly without nitrous, which I would say might be a slight issue in something like grand races, or even something like summits, because why would you actually pick this car when we do have something like the Bugattis and the Lamborghinis that are definitely going to be better. I even have to admit this again, driving something like this compared to the new GTR 50, that car, guys, for me is definitely much better. Do let me know what you guys think about the new Hyperion in the comments below. Do you guys like this car? Is it something you would end up picking for grand races or summits, bro? Um, yeah, I don't think that's a lane, dude. Oh, yes, Chevy, follow the same road. That is, yeah, the AI in this game, bro, are something. But even though I got a bit distracted there with the AI being slightly drunk on the way that they were completely missing the road, I would like to know what you guys think about the new Warp Drive in the comments below. Do you guys actually think this thing is actually going to be a good hypercar? And do you also agree to a certain extent that yes, getting new cars is great, but the overall like meta changes most likely have to be a bit better for many of the newer cars to even be functional?